Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this latest edition of Tales from Outer Space. Hope you enjoy. Story number 1. Hell hath no fury like a human scorned. Written by Damaged Dice DM. So, just to get this out of the way, we, the Acadian species, understand what spite is. That is, we know the concept of spite. Although, what we consider spite is not even in the same galaxy as human spite, in terms of willingness to return offense 100-fold. And we were about to get quite an advanced lesson on the subject due to our interactions with the human race. To be fair to the humans, we started it. Our world started using one of their systems to dump our waste. A simple mistake, but we had been doing it for several cycles by the time anyone had contacted us about it to stop. But it was a profitable practice, so we had initially refused. Humans, a relatively new race at this point, had held no standing on the Galactic Council, so there was little they could do to stop us. Well, there was our initial thought at least. We did not understand how the human spite worked then. If we had, we would have cleaned up the waste immediately and left the system for good. About a cycle after the refusal to stop the practices, the first waste disposal vessel bubbled back into our system. Unresponsive to our hails, it seemed that its communication systems were offline and was operating autonomously. The ship parked over the Acadian homeworld Gulvera before its cargo bay opened, and human refuse poured into our upper atmosphere. All manner of garbage, spoiled foods, disposable food containers, something atrocious called a diaper. Our response was to send escort ships to ensure the safety of the waste disposal vessels. Each with its own frigate would ensure the small human colony would not be able to attack them again, even though they denied any knowledge of any official action taken against the Acadian ship. That worked for about half a cycle, before the waste ships and frigates started coming back with about half their cargo stuck to their hulls. Apparently, humans had figured out some kind of subspace mine that if a ship hit, the hull would polarize, attract anything around you to it. We started to put the waste into large containers and fire them into the area before blowing them up at a distance. We thought that we had won our little Cold War. We were wrong. So wrong. We did not have any new developments for over 4 cycles, which we took to mean the humans had just accepted that they had been bettered. This was not the case. It started slowly. Scattered reports of human trash showing up all over Gulvara and several other Acadian colonies. Not large amounts, but a single pieces of small clusters seemingly showing up out of nowhere. The reports started to increase until there were thousands, varying from food waste falling from the sky to human foot covering appearing inside of a moving vehicle. No one knew how the trash was getting there, and no one knew how to stop it. We knew who was doing it, but couldn't prove how they were doing it. The Galactic Council refused to get involved, no matter how much we pled. In a last-ditch effort, we launched a military campaign to the system. As the Armada approached, their scanners picked up a large object in their current path. They gave the signal to slow and came to a stop in front of the massive ball of waste. Every single unaccounted-for piece of waste we had dumped in the system, plus a bit of their own for good measure. Floating near the moon-sized ball of waste was a beacon that started transmitting as the ships approached. The monitor displayed a colorful cartoon character and was narrated by a smooth, happy-sounding male human voice. It seemed to be produced in a fashion to be targeted to children. The message played. "Greetings, travelers, and welcome to Alpha Echo 9. Perhaps you're wondering what this little giant ball of trash is doing floating right in your path. Well, let me tell you, this is a collection of waste dumped here by a bunch of intergalactic arseholes." The recording's tone was strangely upbeat and cheerful. "If you are the said galactic arseholes, we suggest that you take your garbage and leave now." The cartoon switched to a large amount of ships approaching a cartoon version of the ball. "Now we know what you're thinking. Who are these humans to tell us what to do? Well, let me tell you." The tone of the narrator almost seemed like he was trying to sell something, which its upbeat inflections. The image shifted to a cartoon lab with the same character dressed in a lab coat. We're scientists. Our scientists found a great solution to our own trash problem using quantum entanglement. The two cartoon atoms appeared on the screen. Using a new process, we can entangle these two little guys right here to make them the bestest of friends. The two atoms hugged on the screen, and now, if we hand this little guy to something to hold, they pressed a piece of trash into one of the atom's adorable cartoon hands. Well, he will share it with his friend. The trash disappeared from the atom and appeared across the table at the other one. And you want to know the best part? The narrator let the question hang for a moment to build suspense. It doesn't matter how far apart they are, they will always be willing to share. The picture changed to a cartoon planet that looked strikingly like Galvera, and the atom sat on top of it, waving his piece of trash. I know what you're thinking. Is trash the only thing that they like to share? No. The cartoon image faded to a warehouse full of cartoon-looking bombs. Now, how about you be a pal and pick up after yourself and get the hell out of our system before we get any more ideas about these buddies sharing some nice gifts? How about it? The transmission went dark. Command was contacted. The warships repurposed to removing the garbage immediately. It took a whole 20 cycles to do and a cost of half our annual gross production to do. They have never stopped sending their garbage. We also learned recently that they've been accepted to the Galactic Council in a leadership position, which they secured by promising a technology to the galactic members' civilizations to help them get rid of their waste. Hell, have no fury, like a human scorned. End of story. Story number 2. What Makes Them Stand Tall, written by Hiro Kuki. You may not realize it, but this is a question as old as sentience itself. On that was born along the very first and will die with the very last. What makes them stand tall? This has many answers, and many are wrong. They are bipedal, low gravity, a quirk of nature, honor, a strong will, or the need to explore, are all answers that have, are, and will be given. We know all of them, for we stand tall to remember what should be forgotten, to right what should be erased, and to unearth what should have remained locked away in tombs and graves. So all reasons are found and catalogued in our immense data cores, like we did since the beginning and will continue to do so until the end. Yet, in this one reason we have not been able to find, not even a glimpse or a guess on our own. But we felt it, the itch in the mind, pushing us beyond what we knew, what we thought safe, and all lines have drawn to safeguard us. For eons, we calculated, searched, observed, questioned, and screamed at the gods to reveal what these thrice-damned monkeys stand tall. Until one of their children said a phrase that shook us to the cause. Not because it was intelligent, nor was it the answer to our prayers, no. It was a push to the right piece, at the right time, in the right direction. And so a puzzle of enormous size revealed itself in the true form. Pieces who had no correlation to each other were suddenly bound together. Those we tied in place raced away to where they really belonged, and all of us heard how they clicked, and clicked, as they wove a reason that was so simple, and yet so grand. Even now, I can feel the shivers of pleasure we received from this revelation. It was like the heavens were thrown open and showed a glimpse of the last reason. All the species had done, all the hardships, all the sacrifice to protect the village, to build the city, to reach new heights, just so they could say, I'm just warming up. All the blood and sweat that had flown, all the hardship and pain they had endured was from a single reason, which made them create things whose benefits they would never reap. How they marched in unison to death and destruction, just to create a grander future of the ashes. What reason that was so pure yet so easily corrupted, one that created and destroyed, one that soothed and burned, one that was subtle and yet everywhere and strongly in every one of them, in the big things, and the small. The phrase which showed us all that, a simple one, but complex all the same. I believe in you. You'll find your reason someday, she said. Who could have thought that it was this that made humans stand tall? Faith. End of story. I just quickly want to thank the Tier 5 patrons and channel members: Alithia Barkey, Cam Maxwell, Caspar Arnholtz, Albard and Guster, Arcadian, Lord Azrakal, and Joachim Backer.